You can be unknown today and 10 million people see you tomorrow. And that's just never been possible before. 99% of those people are not my demographic, are not the people we want to do business with. But 1% of 10 million is still a very good number. If you can't turn that 10 million viewership into some form of revenue, then you don't understand the mechanics of how business works and attention works. So you need to figure it out.
Welcome to the Supercharge Marketing Podcast. I'm Pius, the VP of Growth at Lumen 5, an AI video creator made by marketers for marketers. This podcast is a rally call for those who believe in purposeful content, brand storytelling, and thought leadership. We feature insights and best practices from forward-thinking marketers and B2B leaders, daring you to stand out in the rapidly evolving world around us. Are you ready to supercharge your marketing? Hi, everybody. I am very excited for today's episode of Supercharge Marketing. With me today is Stanley Henry, and Stanley is the founder and managing director of The Attention Seeker, a New Zealand-based brand agency helping customers with organic content creation. They work in both personal and business branding, focusing on TikTok and LinkedIn, which is very, very interesting. That we'll dive into later, as both platforms have, while the same audiences kind of carry different mindsets. So really curious to dive into the strategies here. But today we're very excited to talk about the importance of storytelling and the power of brand, especially in this time of economic uncertainty and achieving success through video. So Stanley, great to have you with us. Maybe share a little bit about yourself to the audience, where you're from and how you got into where you are now.
Yeah, perfect. Well, firstly, thanks for having me. Appreciate the calling me onto the podcast. That's awesome. So as you said, my name's Stanley, and I have founded and run a company called The Attention Seeker. My background's a little different to probably most marketing agencies. I came from hospitality. So I used to run hotels for a living, and I did that for 15 years across the world, Australia, London, a little bit in Japan, and then now I'm back in New Zealand. So I'm originally from New Zealand. I was gone for about 12 years. And the reason I got into this world is because I didn't know what my business was going to be. And I just knew I wanted to start my own business. And then I started with personal branding myself. And as the pandemic hit, and I was doing that really well on LinkedIn and building a profile there, people started to reach out and say, hey, we can't get out and meet people in real life. Can you help us with what you're doing on LinkedIn? And that's really where the business took off. So in 2020, April 2020, it really started. And ever since then, it's just been evolving. And what we do is help people do it organically, build a brand organically, rather than a paid option, which still has its merits, but we take a different approach.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, your background is set first for a customer first mindset, right? Really, in hospitality, the customer experience matters, and it's so important. So, very cool to see. Yeah, very cool to see you bring that over into the branding and personal branding world, and it's business branding as well. So, very, very cool to see. Yeah. One of the big things that we talk about this year, and a lot of businesses, speaking of branding, and I've been hearing this quite a bit, is they're kind of giving up on that brand building this year with all the talks of a global recession. And we're seeing a lot of uncertainty out there with resources and budgets and funding. And there's a big focus on companies and marketers right now to be driving revenue and being involved in revenue, as well as continue to build a strong brand. What's your take on this? And what do you think marketers can do to do both well?
Yeah, it's a real interesting point, and you're not wrong that like a lot of brands and a lot of businesses are looking at let's stop the reach campaigns, let's stop brand awareness campaigns and get more into conversion and performance marketing campaigns because we want a return on our money, right? And so that is a normal thing in a downturn. I mean, the 2008 that big downturn 2008 through to 2010 sort of market was where Meta really took hold and really capitalized on their ability to do that, same as Google and all that sort of thing. The difference that you have now is that if you're a company not doing brand marketing and you're giving up on that, the guys who are doing really well, like the businesses who are doing really well, aren't giving up on it. In fact, we are having a lot of conversations now with at least large New Zealand companies who are looking for other ways to build their brand online. And the reason why is platforms like TikTok, platforms like YouTube Shorts and things like that, where no one has figured out how to get ads to perform to the same levels that they were on Meta platforms, right? It's still even TikTok doesn't really understand how to get ads to perform on TikTok really well. And so what we're seeing, the brands who are killing TikTok they are doing things. They are doing all organic brand. It's all videos that go viral, get 20 million views, and they're just consistently building brand that way. So actually, for brands out there who are thinking like, hey, we still need to do this brand awareness campaigns, we still need to do reach, we still need to build a brand for long-term growth, the platforms today that are really working are encouraging you to do it anyway. And of course, TikTok and all of them are going to eventually want you to pay. Like, they're a business. They're going to figure out a way to crack this, and then paid
Yeah.
media campaigns will happen. But right now on TikTok, like, you can be unknown today and 10 million people see you tomorrow. And that's just never been possible before in anywhere without spending ridiculous amounts of money to do it. There will be small little businesses who may only have a few hundred units of the product they're selling go viral one day and then just completely transform their business. They're sold out in seconds, and then they have to they got bigger problems to deal with. So I just think like the platforms are allowing this ability to grow brand. The brands who do it will win. They'll win this next few years when everyone else stops. We see it ourselves. Like, we're not a big agency. Like, we're not one of the big boys who have these strategic relationships with all the listed companies in the world. But we have, because we've spent the entire business life building both personal brands and now our company brand, we are having those conversations with all these big brands now because they know us. Like, they know our story. They know everything about us. Like, we just had a conversation today with the second largest telco in New Zealand, purely based off the social media lead who gets to make the decision on if we come in loves our TikToks, like, loves our brand online, loves all that stuff. So your ability to grow, it's just exponential, and it costs us very little compared to what that same reach would be if we were to spend it on paid campaigns. So I don't know if that really gives enough evidence, but that's our sort of view on it.
No, that definitely starts in yeah, I think you bring up a very good point that technology has advanced to a stage where this is possible now, because this wasn't possible before, and you couldn't be viral overnight without paying $8-10 million for a super, like an ad on TV or somewhere, right? But
Exactly.
technology has advanced to allow this. But I also think, coming up with another conversation, that generational changes within the audiences also allow for this as well, and people are more and more looking for that culture of who you really are, and that personal branding of who they want to do business with, is instead of this massive corporation that has no emotions, no feelings, right? So a lot of that has changed along the way that enables all these things.
Absolutely. You're so right about that, like, face of the business and face of the industry. Like, that thing, the consciousness of the consumers changed huge, like, massively, and they want to know the people behind it. You just have to look at Tesla as the example. Love him or hate him, like, Elon Musk's personal
Yes.
brand is the sole advertising for Tesla, right? That's
Yeah.
all it is, because people believe in him. They believe in what he does. They believe in his vision. It's now got the lion's share of the EV market globally, and they spend $0 on marketing themselves because they've just focused on his brand. So, like, that just shows you the power of what a personal brand can do. And there's just so many examples like that. Like Mr. Beast, the Kardashian family. Like, there's just, the list is eternal of now that's where the world's moving.
Yeah, and I think people want to do business with people that are like them or have the same values as them. And now with social media and technology advancing the ability to bring these subject matters experts forward, where I think in the past, you always read about these strategies from these high level folks through a proxy. A writer would do it, a content creator would do it, but now you have this ability to create this personal brand for yourself and your business and stand for what you really stand for, and people really buy into that because it's real. It's really real.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And that's obviously our business model too. That's what we believe in. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What's something to tie a brand towards, though? I get this question quite a bit because there's so much to draw on, right? Like, as a person, myself, as a company, there's a lot of directions that a company can go towards, and I think a lot of companies try to capture too wide of an audience by going too wide. What's something that folks should be aware of when they're creating their personal brand or their business brand?
Yeah, real good question. And, like, honestly, it depends on what we try to say. It depends on your strategy, and it depends on the brand, and it depends on where you want to be. So that's pretty, a bit of a politician answer, but like if we break that down a little bit further, like we think of as fan acquisition and fan service, and these are some sort of new terms we've been sort of working with. Is that in fan acquisition, the where we see that is like TikTok as an example, right? So TikTok is about fan acquisition. It's about you can get to huge amounts of people instantly. We get 10 million plus views every month through our TikTok account. So you can talk to just the widest possible audience. And it could be all demographics, all people. There's going to be 99% of those people are not my demographic, are not the people we want to do business with. But 1% of 10 million is still a very good number. And so you're going real wide. And then what we do is we go, say, you go to my personal LinkedIn page, and you're not going to get any content that's similar to our TikTok stuff. And it's going to be very much about me as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, building my personal brand and what that does for us as a business. You might go to my personal TikTok, and you'll see it's very creator economy, day in the life of an agency owner, day in the life of someone who's around lots of creators and influencers. And then each and every other person in our brand, and in our LinkedIn company brand will do another thing, right? It has its own brand. So they are all real focused on those platforms that have real targeted niche audiences. Like LinkedIn is as niche as it gets, because you can go, I only want to talk to marketing managers from this industry. Right? So like very niche. Yeah. And then, I mean, look, Facebook Meta can do the same, but it's a different style. Like it's not necessarily job title, it'll be interests. And so on these other platforms, their ability to go as exponentially viral as TikTok isn't the same. So it makes more sense if you want to be on Meta's platforms or you want to be on LinkedIn or whatever, really hone in on your audience and know them right and play to that audience properly. What do they want to see? But I often suggest to people in TikTok, like you can still go really niche on TikTok if you're willing to play a long game there and just have a fan service sort of approach to it. But I just don't see you maximizing the use of TikTok for what it is right now. Eventually, at some point, like Instagram did, like Facebook did, like the organic traffic will slow, ads will take over. It'll be harder and harder to get that reach. But for now, you may as well capitalize on the fact that you're still able to go viral overnight. So talk to as many people as possible, find the 1% of the 10 million, turn them into super fans through other platforms where you give a little bit more dedicated, targeted advice. And that's what we see. TikTok, attention seeker. We've got everything from 14-year-olds through to 60-year-olds all watching us, so every demographic in between. Then the leads that we find as a business go find me. They're like, okay, who's this guy? He's obviously an agency owner. What is this agency? They find our website. They see me. They click on my profile. They hit me up in my DMs on LinkedIn, and they're like, hey, we'd love to get some help with our TikTok. Right, so that's that. And then there's other ways where we'll get the young kids who will find my email address or Instagram, and they'll message me going, hey, can you give me a job? Or hey, you need to give Jane a pay rise, or whatever the thing might be. And so yeah, like there's a few, you got to know what you're trying to do where.
Yeah, I really like that purposeful content. I think that really resonates, where if I'm the same person, like I mentioned earlier, and I'm on LinkedIn, my mindset's different. When I'm looking for that type of content, I'm on LinkedIn for one specific content, but I'm the same person. And if I'm on TikTok later that evening, I'm the same person, but looking for, again, different type of content. And I guess what you're saying is appeal to that same person in the different mindsets of when they're scrolling through your content, when they appeal to you, and really look at drawing them to your brand that way. That's brilliant.
100%. Like you're never going to go to LinkedIn for entertainment. Like you're not going to go at the end of the night, sit on your couch and be like, oh, I'm going to go scroll on LinkedIn and get some entertainment. Like it's just not what you're going to do, right? You're going to be on it during the work hours when your mind's professional and you're thinking about work or you're trying to find a solution. But on TikTok, you're not there to try find solutions to your business. You're there to entertain yourself. We often think of, like, the way we explain it to customers is that TikTok is far more like Netflix than it is Instagram. It is entertainment platform first, and it's like YouTube, right? Like not many people used to think YouTube is a social media platform. It was it was a video watching platform. It's where we used to go watch content and entertainment. Now people are starting to realize, okay, it is a social platform too, and more people sort of buy into that. And so we applied the same filter to TikTok. We're like, oh yeah, it's another social media. It's competing with Instagram, but it's not. It's competing with Netflix. Like, you think when people troll for 3 hours on TikTok, they would have otherwise been watching or binging a series. So you got to think, so you're right. Like, what's the mindset of the person when they're on the platform? What are they looking for?
Yeah, that's a good point. And when you look at it, TikTok isn't in competition with LinkedIn; they're actually in competition with Netflix, and that's the mind space of people's time during that time. Yeah, a big topic that's been going around, obviously, right now within marketers is that whole doing more with less, right? Less resources, less people, less teams to work with, and how do I, as a marketer or content creator, do more with less? And there's a lot of chatter around repurposing content and kind of taking that one piece of content and repurposing it for different platforms or different use cases. But to your point, I think you can do that well, where you would actually repurpose that same piece of content for the mindset of the platform that you're trying to go into, as opposed to just copy and pasting, making a tweet into a LinkedIn post into a TikTok video. It just doesn't work that way when you translate it straight apples to apples across.
Nah, look, and there it doesn't. Our thought there is that resources are limited for everyone. So do focus on the platforms that, like, if you've got limited resources, focus where you best think you can get the return. And so some people that is Facebook, and some people that is TikTok, and others it's LinkedIn. And so for a long time, our business was only focused on LinkedIn. We're a small business, so we had limited resources. So I was like all in on personal brand and LinkedIn. That grew our business to where it is today. TikTok takes it to the next stage. Now we have the resources to do that. Our meta strategy at the moment is a mixture of our LinkedIn static posts and our TikTok videos becoming reels, because we don't have the resources to fully focus on a meta strategy, because if you want to do meta right, like, it needs to be targeted to that platform. And then same with YouTube, we're just repurposing shorts over there at the moment. But this year our goal is to, now that we're a bit bigger, we can apply some resources and get the right team to do a YouTube strategy and make specific content for that. Because you're right, like, it has to be specific, but sometimes some businesses, you just won't have the resources. So repurposing content is a good placeholder, just like, okay, we're present here on Instagram. There is something here. We're not really there yet. But when we are, at least we're not coming in cold.
My next question was, the attention seeker count is very strong on TikTok. Wanting to kind of dive into the next section about video content specifically, and why video, and what's the return on investment for people using video as a primary strategy and leading with that video first mindset.
Yeah, that's a real interesting question, because for like a long time we didn't. For a long time, LinkedIn was our main platform, and there's a lot of people on LinkedIn trying to say, "Oh, look, video this, video that," but like, you can see from the user behavior of people on LinkedIn, they just don't go there to watch lots of video. They might every once in a while, but they don't go for a lot of it. And so I didn't. I said the spend that we need to do video well on LinkedIn isn't right for us as a business. I don't need to. But then we knew at some point that was going to shift as we moved into other platforms. And so with TikTok, when we moved into that platform, we knew video. You have to do video one. There are images there, but they don't really work the same way as a video does. So the video became a necessity to grow that platform. Now, the return on that is just like what I said before. Your ability to speak to millions of people in a very short span of time is just unmatched anywhere else, on any other platform, any other way, in an organic way, without doing paid media. And so the ROI on it is huge. Like, if you take 10 million views that we get a month, and you divide that by 1,000 and get to 10,000, so CPM, right? 10,000 views, and you take, say, an average of, let's just call it $10 per 1,000 views, we're at $100,000 that it would cost you to get the same amount of views every month, right? 100 grand. That's not the salary of Joni, our team, who's in charge of that. That's not her annual salary, who's creating all that content. So, like, that's already, even if that was her salary, that's a 12x return on this money you're spending in terms of viewership. Now you have to go, is it the right, like, am I going to get a return from that 10 million views? And my view on that is that as long as your strategy is right, and you're directing the right type of traffic to the right places at the right time through your content, then of course it is. Like, I always say this to people: if you can't make money from 10 million views a month, then you need to get out of business. Like, like, you just don't have a clue of anything, right? Like, if you can't get that, especially as a small business, if you can't turn that 10 million viewership into some form of revenue, then you don't understand the mechanics of how business works and attention works. So you need to figure it out. So, like, for us, we only need from TikTok 1 or 2 clients come from a month to make it a worthwhile endeavor, right? Given the size of contracts are for managing social media accounts for large companies. So, look, I think video is just in a world today where our ability to consume content so much easier with phones and 5G networks and all that sort of stuff, and just the platforms that we have today that enables it. You're silly not to do video, but you need to be on the right platform to do it. But if I was going straight into TikTok or Meta, obviously YouTube's the same. Of course, video reach is just unparalleled to whatever else goes on there. And then TikTok's organic reach is just, and it's not just TikTok. Like, people can do it on Instagram Reels. People are doing it on Instagram Reels, and people are doing it on YouTube Shorts. So we just so happen to take TikTok and got that working first, and we'll move through the others as we can. But you just can't match the organic reach that those platforms have.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. Well, first, congratulations. That's a lot to unpack there to drive up to 10 million viewers, and I'm sure that did not happen overnight, and definitely the success and experience from there shows through. So how long did that take, and I guess what were some of the pathways you took to drive up to that 10 million?
Yeah, look, so we put our first post on TikTok on 1st of July last year. So we're only 8 months into this journey.
Wow.
On TikTok. Yeah. At 3 months, we were at 10,000 followers, roughly, just a bit over 3 months. We're at 10,000 followers. And so that was, end of September, start of October, we were at 10,000 followers. By Christmas, we're at 250,000. And then now we're at 370. So it's like exponential growth as it's growing. But what it took is, at the beginning, when Joni, who we brought in to do this, so Joni already had 430,000 of her own followers when she started with us. So we hired her because she had the understanding of the platform. We could make content, but we couldn't make it for the platform at the moment. So we brought her in. And then what we said to her is, just pump content out all day and just test, just try stuff. And what it was really about wasn't so much about getting the content awesome. It was getting her to figure out a process to produce content consistently. And because it's that consistency that we knew would end up winning the war later on. And so she spent the first few months just trialing everything until we found the one that worked, which there was a few that worked, but the one that worked consistently was our presentation videos, where she's presenting something to me and trying to convince me of something. Every time we do one of those, there are, minimum hundreds of thousands, but usually in the millions. And so we found something that works, and we just keep doing them as like a fan acquisition thing. And then we have a whole bunch of other styles of videos around it that still do well, but they're more fan service. So they're more telling everyone about us, getting them a deeper knowledge of who we are as a company and our culture and things like that. And so it took a long time to get there because we were still figuring out as a company how to do it. But now, we have clients who went live on 4th of January this year, and they're already at 5 to 10 million views a month. We got one client who the first month in, 15,000 followers from, we created their account, we set up their TikTok account. They're already at those sorts of numbers. And it's just because we figured it out. We understand it better now and how to get there faster. They're going to outpace us, well and truly outpace us where we're going, which is fine. We're ahead of them, so hopefully we can stay ahead. And we know what we know now. But they're at each milestone, they're going to be further down the track than we are. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, look, it took a long time for us, and it will, if you're starting out and you're doing this fresh on your own, it will take time. But it's not taking the time that, say, Instagram would take to build. It's taking a much shorter time if you can get it right.
Yeah. And I think that consistency that you mentioned is really key. And also just testing and trialing out all the different types of content that works, the different ways that work. And I think the most successful companies stick at it for a while, but then they also try and test out different forms and functions, right? I was speaking with someone yesterday who just started podcasting, and they're up to quite a bit of downloads per episode now, but they've only been doing it for 6 or 7 episodes, and they stuck with it. And if it was something that they would have stopped or cut processes on early, it just wouldn't have worked out. So it's really interesting, and that always trial and error is key. So that's really cool to see you guys do that.
Absolutely.
One thing that was really interesting, I guess, is that there's a lot of different types of video out there now, and I think video gets grouped into this one content piece where video is video. But when you look at the different types of video for different types of content or different platforms, like you and I were talking about, maybe the video that works on TikTok doesn't work on LinkedIn because that person isn't in that same mindset. So we're actually seeing some success with some video types on LinkedIn, while putting that same video on TikTok wouldn't work, and vice versa. Same with YouTube and same with Instagram. So it's been really interesting to test out all these different types of video and what works from it too. And I think to your point,
Absolutely. Yeah.
some videos drive revenue and some videos drive entertainment, but putting that right type of content in the right channel is so important to test out and understand what your audience is, and then seeing what their mindset's at too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I really, kind of scrolling through your brands and whatnot, I think that the personal brand and the business brand on TikTok, but then also your landing page and website, all of that carries the same consistent story in the feel. So me as a customer or as an audience listening through, even speaking with you and interacting and engaging with you and all of your content, you get that same consistency of that brand and feeling. And I think that's so important. How do you suggest your clients or customers manage that consistency in brand across all platforms when, especially when we talked about earlier, that you have to also keep in mind that people have different mindsets when surfing on different types of platforms?
Yeah, really, really challenging thing to do for businesses, and mostly because people want their brand to. They have this idealistic version of what their brand should be and who they should be out in the world. And we're a big believer in, like, if it's not who you actually are, then it shouldn't be your brand. And if you can't live it every day, if you can't be that brand every day, just by default, it's easier to be the brand than it isn't, right? If you can't be that way, then you shouldn't have that as your persona or brand out in the world. And a lot of companies don't do that very well, right? Because like you'll have this business owner who's like, oh, I want my brand to be this real cool thing over here. And it's like, but that's not you. Like, you're not that. So when you go out to the world and you represent it, or people could do everything else that you do isn't going to align with this TikTok strategy, as an example. So that's the first thing, is like our onboarding process with clients takes minimum of 6 weeks. And a lot of clients are like, can we speed that up a bit? I'm like, no, like we have to truly know who you are. We're going to, like, we take all our clients right back to, like, if it's personal brand clients, we'll take you back to the day you're born. If it's business clients, like, we're fully understanding who this business is and who the people are in it, because we need to bring that to life, right? So that's the first thing, is like, don't try and be something you're not. And if you want your brand to be a certain way, then get out of its way. Like, if you're the founder or the owner of this brand and you want it to look a certain way, or the CEO, then it doesn't embody you, then find the people in your team that it does embody, get out of their way, and let them represent the brand for you and be the person. Because that inconsistency is where people get really confused. Like, they'll go, oh, that's really cool, TikTok, and then they'll go, the brand is like, oh, who is this? This is not even them. So that's the first thing. The second thing, like, one way we look at it is, like, I'll give you an example of a personal brand client that we have who he helps with mindset and coaching and things. He's very much personal brand, so it's not really applicable to big brands, but the concept does. So we have a bunch of, like, things he helps with, like core pillars, like most brand social agencies will do. And one of his core issues is holding attention and being, like, present in things, right? And so one of the challenges that people have is staying on track and not task switching, right? And then so we're like, okay, what's the scenario when that happens? How does that manifest in real life? Oh, well, you might be on a Zoom call and I'm actually sitting here doing my emails while you're talking to me and I'm not really paying attention. I'm actually doing all this other stuff. And that's a sign of people having stress in their life and not managing their reactions well and things like that. That's how it looks. So that scenario is something many people understand. We've now, in today's world, we've all been on a Zoom with someone who's doing something else while they shouldn't, or we've been that person. So you can make a really funny skit about that, right? That's a TikTok idea. Perfect. Cool. We can make a funny skit about this that everyone will buy into, millions of views. Now we can take the same scenario, talk about it as a talking head video, go, when this happens, well, this is the challenge you go through. Here's a solution you can help to overcome it. And so it can be a very formal sort of instructional stuff. Now that's a great video for LinkedIn. And then we could turn that into, we could just write that in the way that's written. Okay, now that's a great text post. Or we could write it into a 700-word article and we have a more in-depth published piece of work that could go on a website or LinkedIn article or whatever. So you're taking the same concept and thing that he talks about and you're going everywhere, but you're making content specific to each of those platforms that works for the types of people there. Because if you if you try to do too serious on TikTok, it's not. Oh well, it's not that it won't land, but it won't go millions of views. It might get tens of thousands. That's fine, and that could be okay for some people, but it won't get the millions. Whereas if you do a funny skit, I mean, that's on. It's gone off. Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. First off, I think what you mentioned at the beginning about don't be something you're not, and like we're all humans, we're all who we are, and we should be proud of it, and being real and being genuine. That speaks through to your audience, and they jive with your ideals and your values, and I think that's so important in building a brand, not just for yourself, but as a company. Like, what does your company stand for? And if you're trying to, fake it till you make it, I don't think that works as much anymore, especially when it's your personal brand that you have to live 24/7. So yeah, I think that's amazing advice. And I can see the success from that when you recommend that to your customers, because that is the core of things, right? Just don't be something you are. And if you want to be that thing, either get out of your company's way, or learn to evolve yourself into that thing that you want to be.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then, really giving the tips around creating purposeful content was huge.
Mm,
And you demonstrated it perfectly with that example from TikTok, and then taking that same
yep.
content and maybe ideal or whatever it is, translating that into a
Yep.
different content that has the same message, but in a different format onto LinkedIn and then everywhere else. So that's amazing.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. It's a hard thing to do, but once you get that done, it's so much easier. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think, tying it back to my last question here, really around storytelling and tying it all to storytelling, how would you go about creating and crafting that story across all brands? I'm sorry, across all channels and all mediums to your brand, and how important is that?
Oh yeah, I mean storytelling is everything when it comes to content, and whether or not you're doing funny skits or you're doing serious article writing or you have to tie in what are the core elements of the story. And the way we always come back to saying MCU, the MCU, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? Like we always think that way. Like everything in that universe ties into something else and tells a bigger story than the one that you're watching. There's always multiple storylines going on, and there's an aesthetic of everything, right? And you can watch Spider-Man, which is a teenage movie essentially, right? And then you can watch like Ant-Man, which is heist movies, and then you can like you've got all these like Captain America's like wartime war pieces or whatever, wartime piece sort of movies. They're all these different stories, but they all interlink. They all overlap, have this thing. So when you're creating content for all your different platforms, they all have these different tones and voices and looks and genres, but there's like elements that run through them all the time that people know, oh, that's Marvel. Oh, that's the attention seeker. So when you go to our website, there's things just like the colors, even the white and the black and the little orange. Like, I mean, I dress in those colors. Like, like everything is there, right? And so you tie it all in, but then just the humor. So like you'll watch the humor on the attention seeker channel, which is unhinged, outrageous humor. But then you'll go to my LinkedIn post and you'll still see some of that cheekiness in there. You'll still see that I'm okay to use language that maybe other people on LinkedIn won't use, or I'm okay to call myself things that other people, I might like self-deprecating humor might come across, or just all these things where you can see these little slithers. But on LinkedIn, it's like serious stuff talking about like leadership, talking about how to better lead your team and better grow a business and real entrepreneurial stuff, which is very different to the attention seeker topics, genres. But there's like these slithers of like, oh yeah, he's got that same humor. He's a bit cheeky. He's got the same outfits, even like down to what we wear, down to the styles. And we even used our office as a prop. So people know our office. They like we have people who come and visit us now and they're like, oh, that's where you play Mario Kart. Oh, that's where you do the TikTok things.
Yeah.
Oh, that's where you do that. They know it already. It's a prop. Like they get it. It's a set. It's like going like if we all walked into the Simpsons home, we'd know how to get to Bart's room. Like because it's like this prop that we know so well. So by tying all these are all story. That's all story. Like people just think of story as like, okay, there's Goldilocks and the Three Bears. You did this, and there's a sequence of events. But that's one way of telling a story. But it's not storytelling. Storytelling is everything's included in it. The whole brand, every element has some part of it. And so weaving all those through and being consistent throughout the whole thing and carrying like questions. Where I don't know if you've seen that on our thing, but we're spelling it Kweschenes. That became such a big part of our TikTok of spelling questions wrong that now when I do a keynote and the last slide is questions, I just put up that spelling, and then the crowd erupts and they're like, "Oh, that's so funny. We know what you're talking about. We know the reference." Again, storyline. They get it. They understand they're part of the narrative. So all of that stuff is storyline, and that's like that deep level that a lot of people miss when they're getting into the real crux of what storytelling truly is, where your fans, no matter where they are, they're like, "Oh, that's attention seeker right there. I can tell. It looks exactly like that." Just like when you watch a Marvel movie, you know it's a Marvel movie, even though they're completely different genres. You watch She-Hulk and it's a bloody law. It's a law, like law and Order or something like that. And then you go watch Captain America, but they're both Marvel movies. You know it is. There's elements that float through.
For sure. And there's the same style and feel and emotions and everything else that ties it all together. Yeah, this is a very good point. When you think of storytelling, a lot of times there's like intro, middle, and end, but it's a lot more, especially when you're looking to tie the entire universe and series around this one brand that you're trying to create.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
100%.
Yeah.
We even do it with our clients. So we've got clients who are willing to be part of the Taz cinematic universe, if you will, where they understand they want to be part of our universe. And like there's elements, like we had a video from a client that went pretty viral the other day, and they were like, "Oh, hang on, that's the Attention Seeker Studio. We know that spot." And then that boosted them too. So that same story is now infiltrating our clients, which helps them, helps us, and it's this whole world that you're sort of creating in the story and association through brands. Yeah.
Well, you do it very well, because I traveled across all of your content and I got the same feel, and even the website, even the pictures you take of your staff and the little bit of humor in the poses and the colors and everything. It's right on point. So that's very, very cool. Yeah. And I think, moving forward with AI and where AI is going, it's going to be so much more important moving into the future to create that brand for yourself as that real person, that real thoughts, and those reality of who you are as a brand, and kind of overcome this quote unquote falseness of AI and really stand out above the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. AI is going to allow people to produce at a much faster rate, which means there's more noise, which means to stand above everyone, you have to be better. You just have to be better.
Very personal. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, brand's a great way to do that. And video showcases who you are. So it's a good combo.
100%. Yep.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Stanley. So great to hear your perspectives on this topic and everything else. And we'll continue to share relevant and timely experiences from leaders in our field. Where can our audiences find you?
For me personally, the best place to find me is on LinkedIn. So just search Stanley Henry and you'll find me pretty easily. Well, I hope you do. I've done my job right. And then obviously on TikTok, The Attention Seeker. If you want a good laugh, come find us on The Attention Seeker. Yeah.
Very, very cool. All right. Sweet. Hey, listeners, we always want to keep our episodes short and impactful, and we hope you found value in what you heard today. And that's really our goal, is to connect you with industry leaders with the expertise to share so we can all grow together. And as always, keep making purposeful content in this B2B world, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye. And thank you so much, Stanley.
Thank you. Cheers. See you later, guys.
Thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode, hit subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to your podcast. Or leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. If video is not already part of your marketing content strategy, it's not too late to start. Create amazing videos with Lumen5's AI-powered video creator without the need for any design or video editing experience. Check us out at lumen5.com to supercharge your marketing, or follow us on LinkedIn for updates and resources. As always, keep making purposeful content in this B2B world. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.